So you've been thinking about moving to Lexington, but you're stuck on the big question. How much money do I actually need to buy a home right now? And what are all the hidden costs that I should know about? Well, I'll tell you this. It's probably different than what you've experienced in other cities and states. I know I was surprised. And when it comes to buying a home in Lexington today, there are a lot of half-truths out there. So today we're clearing them up. And if we haven't met yet, hi, my name is Shelby Johnson and I'm a local real estate agent. My husband Drake and I were former military. He was Marines, I was Army, and we relocated to Lexington almost completely out of the blue. And since then have helped a ton of families do the same. We see the real numbers behind what it takes to buy here. So today I'm giving you an inside scoop on exactly what to expect and how much you need to make it happen. Starting with, what does the average home cost in Lexington right now? Well, the cheapest move-in homes that you'll find in the area are around $175,000, and those are teeny tiny little guys, and likely not in the best neighborhood. On the other hand of the spectrum, we have these freaking gorgeous multi-million-dollar homes, but most people fall somewhere in between. As of July 2025, the median home sales price in Lexington was around $350,000, but a lot of relocators that I've been working with lately have found that $400 to $550 is this sweet spot for a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,200 square feet, 2-car garage, fenced yard, great neighborhood, A-rated schools, basically the full package within that $400,000 to $550,000 range for something that's completely move-in. And that's just to give you an idea. When it comes to down payments, there's a myth I've heard too many times to let slide any further. You do not need 20% down to buy a home. Is it smart to put 20% down? Maybe, depending on your specific situation. But we help people get into homes all the time with 3% down payment, 5% down payment. And if you're military or a veteran, there's even 0% down payment options for you. I've personally used mine twice, freaking love the VA loan. But the takeaway is no, you don't need $100,000 in the bank in order to start house hunting here in Lexington. On that $350,000 home, if you put 3% down, that's $10,500. 5% down is $17,500, or if you did that full 20% down, that'd be $70,000. You might be wondering, why would anyone put more than 3% down if they don't have to? Well, with a large enough down payment, you can skip PMI, or private mortgage insurance, which lenders normally charge if you have a lower down payment. And the more money you put down, the lower your monthly payment will be. Really what it comes down to is how much you're comfortable with spending monthly. Not so much the purchase price, but more the monthly payment. This does not apply if you're buying a property cash. If you buy a home the way that most people do, by using a loan, you're focused on that monthly payment amount. And that's where things really start to come together, because even if you can swing the down payment that we just talked about, you still need to be comfortable with what's coming out monthly to pay that mortgage. Here in Lexington, property taxes usually land somewhere around 1.24% of the assessed value annually. This is actually a bit higher than the rest of Kentucky, the state as a whole, but it's still lower than a lot of other places throughout the country. Using our $350,000 home example, we multiply that by 1.24%, and that's approximately $4,340 in property taxes annually. Next, homeowners insurance is something that can vary super widely depending on the type of property you buy, where it's located, and the age, etc. In Lexington, the average annual premium for homeowners insurance is around $1,500 to $2,000. So you're talking about $150 a month extra in payment. That can be a little higher, it can also be lower. But unlike places like Florida, we're not dealing with massive coastal flood insurance costs. We do have some low-lying areas in Lexington that could have flood risk. So your agent, me, can help you check the specific flood zones for properties that you're interested in. Next, back to PMI, or that private mortgage insurance I mentioned earlier. This is something that you likely have to pay if you don't have at least 20% equity or skin in the game when it comes to buying a home. This is approximately $125 to $225 a month, depending on the actual loan amount. So for our $350,000 example, this would be around $175 a month. So let's add that up. We have $350,000 with 5% down, which brings our mortgage to $2,175 a month. Then we have our $362 of property taxes. Then we have our $150 of homeowner insurance, plus that $175 for PMI. And our total monthly estimated payment is $2,862. But we're not done. If you live in a homeowners association, these are super common here in Lexington and can range anywhere from $10 to $40 a month, sometimes more if you're in a super bougie area. Also consider utilities. I know we're getting into the weeds here on the numbers, but these are the questions that I answer all the time, and I would much rather give you all of this up front in detail to think about than for you to be surprised when it's too late. One big thing to remember is that not all the areas in Lexington or the surrounding cities are priced, taxed, or insured the same way. What you pay in a well-established area like Chevy Chase is very different than what you're going to pay in a newer construction home near Hamburg or a rural property outside of city limits. Which leads me to the next piece of the puzzle here. Location changes everything. Here is a quick snapshot of some of the Lexington areas and what they offer. So we have Chevy Chase and Kennewick. These are sought after, well-established neighborhoods with a lot of charm. They're walkable with really pretty parks and mature, gorgeous trees. Medium home prices in this area typically range from $500,000 to $700,000 plus, depending on the specific pocket and the home size. Next up, Beaumont. This area offers a mix of established and newer homes and some of the very best schools in all of Lexington. They're super well maintained when you drive through these neighborhoods, beautiful streets, lots of higher end amenities around as well. Median home prices can vary widely here, but we're looking at, again, $500,000 to $700,000 with some of the larger homes going for more. Next up, we got Hamburg. This is a popular area for newer construction homes and like hyper convenient. So every retail store, restaurant you can imagine is right there, including Lexington's only Costco. It's also right by I-75, so you can just pop up north and go to Cincinnati or down south and hit Knoxville. Homes in this area, you'll typically find around $300,000 to $500,000 with a lot of newer builds and more growth coming, which I'll dig into in another video. And for my last example, we'll talk about Masterson Station. This is located in the northwest side of town, and this area offers more value, often in the 300,000s, maybe a little less, up to 400,000. The schools here aren't known to be the best in the area, but it's a great option if you're looking for more bang for your buck without being too far from town. But you'll find that every zip code has its own personality and its own price tag. The most important thing is finding the neighborhood that fits your story and your ideal lifestyle. Now, for the hidden costs that catch buyers off guard. This is the stuff that pops up even after you've got that down payment figured out and you think you're in the clear. But surprise! First up, we've got closing costs. On the surface, this typically is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3% of that total purchase price. So in our $350,000 example, that's another $7,000 to $10,500. But what actually goes into that? It's not just one big fee. Within closing costs, we have lender fees. This is what your bank or your lender charges you for setting up and handling your loan, the cost for their services. Also in closing costs, you're gonna have title fees. This is what you pay the title company to verify that the property is clear of any liens or judgments, to make sure it's fully and legally transferred from the seller into your name, and coordinate for the closing itself. You're also going to have a one-time charge for title insurance, which protects the lender from any potential issues with the home's past history. And finally, you have something called prepaids and escrow. This is not a fee, but it's money that you're going to pay up front at closing to cover future costs. Your lender will collect up front months and sometimes more than a year's worth of property taxes and home insurance premiums, and then hold them in an escrow account to pay on your behalf when the time comes. As you can see, all of these fees add up fast, but we're not done yet. Next on our list of hidden costs that most people don't talk about are inspections and appraisals. After you go under contract, you have an inspection period where it's your opportunity to do your due diligence on this house to make sure it's in the condition that you want to buy it in. These are not required inspections, but I highly recommend getting a general home inspection, a radon inspection, and a termite inspection. So home inspections are around $500. Radon, you're looking at $175, and termite is another $60. This is worth every penny. No home is perfect. All of them have little secrets for us to uncover. We can also use the results of the home inspection to go back to the seller and ask for them to make repairs or cut you a check at closing for the cost of repairs so you can do it yourself. And while we're working on inspections, your lender is scheduling what's called an appraisal. An appraisal is a third-party assessment of the property's market value conducted by a licensed appraiser, and this is required by your lender. Why do you care? Well, first of all, the appraisal normally costs $500 to $700, but more importantly than that, the appraisal protects you from overpaying for property. Credit scores. You do not need perfect credit to buy a house, but there are minimum credit requirements to get a loan. The lowest that I've seen approved is 580 for a credit score. But the higher the credit score, the better the interest rate opportunities you're going to have, which will keep thousands in your pocket over the life of the loan. Another thing, cash reserves. Once you close, that home is yours. And so if something goes wrong, the water heater breaks, the HVAC goes out, or you want to make updates to your home, all of those costs are gonna be coming out of your pocket now. And so budgeting for them accordingly will only set you up for success. All things to keep in mind for planning purposes. This whole process works better with a plan in place. Mapping out your priorities. We're talking school zones, commutes, yard, walkability, getting on the same page as your family and your spouse. These are all things that you're going to want to consider up front. I also strongly recommend talking to a lender. It's really good to get a clear idea of where you are and where you need to be, so that way you're prepared when the time comes. Or better yet, you don't have to remember to do any of those things, because if we work together, I will literally walk you through all of it, including the 10 unexpected things you've got to know when house hunting in Lexington, Kentucky, which is up next.